What is going on, Hive Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about something special. One of the subscribers told me, is it possible? Can I have something, or can people just have something where even if you're at a caloric deficit, even if you do everything right, no matter what you do, the fat won't come off? So that's the purpose of this video, and maybe some other videos I'll do in the future, tackling things where no matter what you do, dietary wise, you cannot burn fat in this specific situation. I'm gonna go ahead and break it down in this video. Now, I want to carry this conversation very carefully because people who do have this disease or this disorder struggle psychologically with day-to-day life simply because this cannot be removed from being at a caloric restriction. And it takes a little bit of understanding of how fat is actually stored so that you can understand why a caloric deficit will not burn this disorder. Now, what the disorder is called is lipedema, and it basically works with the lymphatic system. There are theories on exactly what's going on, but be mindful, the understanding of lipedema is in its infancy. One of the things that we do know, though, in terms of treating it and stuff like that, is that being at a caloric deficit and changing your diet and eating healthy will not affect this in any way, shape, or form. It can help, it can definitely help, but it won't affect the specific parts that are affected by lipedema. Now, understanding how fat works. A lot of people think that fat is just calories and accumulating gunk and that's it. And all of a sudden now you have fatty tissues. That is not true. Fat cells house the fatty acids, the triglycerides in that fat cell. So when the fatty acids is in there, so it's basically the triglycerides inside of there, the fat cell expands, allows the fatty acids to be in there and stays expanded. Now you have so many of these in your body that they just expand and put fatty acids in there. Now when your body needs energy, they send out the triglycerides, they break the fatty acids apart, send it through the bloodstream to parts of your body that need energy, and each individual cell that does that then shrinks back to a small size. When you lose weight, you still have the fat cells there. They're not gone, they're just shrunk because there isn't fatty acids inside of them. So when you see somebody who's slim, they simply have shrunk most of their fat cells and they are slim. And you can see their abs and everything because the cell is so small, you can't see it anymore. But if there's a bunch of fat cells that have expanded to put in the fatty acids, you will see the subcutaneous fat, which is the fat right under the skin. And it will be very visible and you can actually physically touch it because it's just a bunch of those fat cells clumped together and expanded. Now, what happens with lipedema, it appears that the fat cell, because of fluid and because of some type of disorder with the lymphatic system, the fluid expands that fat cell larger than what it normally is, regardless of the fatty acids inside of it. So now you can see why this type of problem or this type of disorder cannot be cured really with a calorie deficit, because even if for example, even if there was fatty acids in there and it came out, it's the expansion due to the constant fluid expansion that's keeping these fatty acids, that's keeping the adipocytes or the fat cell from shrinking. So they're expanding based off of not based off of energy intake. And this ends up happening, I believe there's a rough estimate right now, and it's about 10% of women deal with this, and it's normally during some type of massive hormonal shift. So it's either you might start seeing the first stages when you're in puberty or you go through puberty, or first stages might start during pregnancy, or the first stages might start during menopause. So you never know exactly when that can happen, but it goes through stages. Stage 1 is very normal looking. Stage 2, it starts to get very abnormal. Stage 3, it looks incredibly abnormal. And then stage 4, you get even crazier as it goes full into the extremities that are not affected by it in the beginning. So usually the way it looks is there's an abnormality because it normally happens to the legs, but not exactly to the foot, or it can happen to the arms, but not exactly to the hands. Therefore, there appears to be an abnormality because the arms can be bigger. Usually it's the legs though, but the legs can be bigger and the foot can be very, very small, just like this picture here. And you can continue to gain weight. A lot of people, when they have this disorder, they actually tend to gain weight because no matter what they do, that specific piece or part of their body just won't go down. And it's very hard to even diagnose this. This has to be diagnosed by some type of a clinical doctor or someone checking to see if this in fact is lipedema, or is it just you gaining weight. But you could have a very small upper body, very slim abs and everything, ripped upper body, and still your legs would be overweight, or you will be obese based off of this lipedema. It's very sad, and it's something that literally has no cure. You can do preventative things for pain and bruising. You can try to slow it down with using compression. There's a lot of things you can do as a treatment to cope with lipedema, but there isn't anything really that you can do to make it go away. A lot of people, for example, say, well, what about liposuction? Liposuction can definitely help for sure, but there is no guarantee that the cells that start to produce in that spot will not continue to then start all over and get you to that point and get you to the same point again later down the line. So it looks like it could be genetic, but we don't know for sure. They have seen that most people who have lipedema or who have been diagnosed with lipedema, family members have had it. But there are people who have it and they don't know if any family member has had it in the past. But it could be a genetic thing where it just wasn't traced or understood that someone else had it because they were never diagnosed or what have you. So it could be just a genetic thing, but it definitely appears to be based off of a hormonal shift, and this gets triggered during those hormonal shifts as mentioned when you go through puberty or menopause or pregnancy. Men, it's very rare that this happens in men, very, very rare. So with that being said, if you're sitting back saying, well, I can't lose weight because there's something with me that in terms of calorie deficits and it doesn't work with me no matter what I do, keep in mind that no matter what you do, period, there's nothing that you could do for lipedema. So it's not like you could do intermittent fasting and that will help you reduce those fat cells. It's not about energy intake. It's about the fluid and the fat cell expansion being overly expanded more than normal. But still, roughly right now with the controlled studies and the cross-sectional studies and the little bit of information that we have, only about 10% of women are affected by this, and only about maybe 1% of men are affected by this. So if you're a man, the chances that you have this and this is the reason why you're not losing weight is a 99% chance that it is not this. If you are a woman, it is a 90% chance that this is not what's affecting you in terms of weight loss not coming off no matter what. But you should always check to see if this is something that you have. Now keep in mind, it is hard for people to tell, especially in the beginning stages, because things still look proportionate. It's normally during a very late stage that when you see the extremities like the hands and the feet not gain fat, or the upper body very slim, and yet the lower body is expanding and constantly gaining on top and constantly gaining in the subcutaneous fat, where you realize that this could be lipedema, and then they go through the diagnostic process to diagnose that that's what you have. So yes, there are things in biology where you can gain fat. This is actually fat because it's the fat cell, and it continues to gain fat as all the fat cells continue to expand, yet you cannot do anything about it via calorie restriction. But don't let anyone tell you that, well, you do something else like intermittent fasting or keto or carnivore diet or eating vegan, and that will bring that down, because unfortunately at this point, at this time, with what we understand and what we know, there is no cure for lipedema. Hopefully this was very informative. It was just a factoid for you guys, and for someone who was curious to know, are there possibilities of gaining fat but not being able to lose it no matter what you do, no matter what calorie deficit? Well, lipedema is one of them. Of course, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon, and I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here.